Try to speak loudly. First of all, spell your first and last name for the reporter.
David Jensen,
Spell your first and last name.
Davidjensen.
All right, who's doing the direct? Go ahead, Ms. Krause.
And David, I'm going to ask you to speak directly into the microphone so that the jurors can hear you, okay?
Sorry.
It's okay. David, can you tell us who your parents are?
Mark Jensen and Julie Jensen.
And how old were you when Julie Jensen passed away?
I was 8 years old.
I want to take you to December 3rd, 1998, okay? At some point, did you arrive to your house from school?
What day? December 3rd was what day of the week?
The day your mom passed away, that Thursday.
Sorry. Yes, we came home directly from school. I was picked up.
And after coming home directly from school, where did you go?
We came inside and Doug and I went to the living room.
And when you say we, who was with you?
My dad. It was my dad, my brother, Douglas, and I.
And after you and Douglas went into the living room, do you know where your dad went?
Yeah, he told us to wait in the living room while he went down the hallway to the bedroom to check on our mom.
At some point, did your dad come back down that hallway?
Yeah, I don't remember how long exactly it was, but he came out crying not terribly long after he went down.
So after he was in your parents' bedroom, he came back down that hallway?
Yes.
And what did you see?
He was sobbing and told us to stay there, told me to put on a movie for Doug, went to the telephone, and then returned down the hallway. We just stayed in the living room.
We're going to come back to that day, but I want to hear a little bit about what you've been doing since you were 8 years old. Okay? Did you graduate high school?
Yes, from Bradford.
And that was in Kenosha?
Yes.
What year did you graduate high school?
2008.
After high school, did you go to college?
UW Parkside. I graduated in 2012.
And what did you graduate with for a degree?
Bachelor of Science in Biology.
After graduating from UW Parkside, did you continue your education?
Yes, I worked for a year as a lab technician and then enrolled as a graduate student at the Medical College of Wisconsin.
That 1 year you worked as a lab technician, where was that?
That was also at the Medical College of Wisconsin.
So after that year, you enrolled as a graduate student?
Yes.
And that was also at the Medical College of Wisconsin?
Yes.
And what were you working towards?
I was working on my PhD.
Your PhD in what?
Physiology and biomedical science.
What does physiology and biomedical science mean?
So I was in particular working on vascular dysfunction and hypertension and diabetes with a focus on translational research from bringing basic research to the clinic.
At some point, did you get your doctorate?
Yes, I graduated or defended my thesis in 2020.
When you say defended your thesis, that means like you had to give your thesis to a group of individuals and then defend the premise.
Yes, so I wrote, all my original research was written up into like a 300-page monstrosity, and then I go in front of the entire department, give a big presentation, and then my committee decides whether my contribution has been enough to warrant the degree, and so yeah, graduated.
Was it enough to warrant your degree?
Yes.
And when did you get that?
That was in 2020.
After getting your degree, did you then go and start working?
I defended my thesis. It was the initial week of COVID lockdown. It was mine was the first virtual defense at my institution. Due to hiring freezes and stuff, I worked as a postdoctoral fellow at the medical college for a couple years, and I'm now employed by a company called Ashfield as a medical writer.
And what does a medical writer do?
We're hired by pharmaceutical companies. I write manuscripts, Congress presentations, and educational materials based on the results of clinical trials.
And you've been doing that since 2022?
Yeah, 2022, January, I started there.
Now, I want to go back to your childhood before you were 8 years old and ask you if you remember a time that you spent with your mom.
Any time in particular, or
Just any specific things you remember doing with your mom prior to her passing?
yeah, so we spent a lot of time at this little plastic table just off the kitchen. This was our arts and crafts table. During the summer, we were absolute fish. We were in the pool just constantly.
And when you say we, who was in the pool constantly?
Doug and I, Doug with his little floaties, and Drake was over, our cousin Drake was over often in the summers as well. So he and I were closer in age, so we would be swimming a ton.
Was your mom in the pool with you, if you remember?
I don't particularly remember her being in the pool with us, just kind of watching us from the deck.
Absolutely. And you said your younger brother was in the pool.
Occasionally, as he was able.
What other things do you remember doing with your mom?
I mean, she also volunteered at my school, so whenever we had a field trip, she also came along. So always saw her there too.
Did your family do anything as a family?
Yeah, I mean, all four of us would play in the pool on the weekends, and we frequently went fishing as well on Lake Michigan or occasionally Lake Geneva.
Now, I want to talk to you about some of the activities you did with your dad prior to your mom passing. Do you remember specific things that you did with your dad?
Frequent fishing trips, sometimes all four of us, sometimes just the two of us, just him and me. A lot of just roughhousing and wrestling on the carpet. Yeah.
When you mentioned fishing trips, sometimes just you and your dad, sometimes all four. Do you remember where you went?
Yeah. We would do an annual trip down to Big Cedar Lodge in Missouri. It was just a fishing resort on a chain of lakes. And more often, Lake Michigan, we would go just outside the harbor up by the lighthouse and the breakwater and go perch fishing there.
Being avid fishermen, did you guys have your own poles?
Yes. Yeah.
And did you ever make your own poles?
Thank you. My dad would buy like the blanks and then do the wrapping and building. So I'd help him with that out in the garage. We had one that we built for myself that I was particularly fond of.
What's been marked as Exhibit 123, 124, and 125, and ask you if you recognize these pictures.
Sorry, frog in my throat. Yes, I do recognize these. This is the base of the rod that we built for me.
How do you know it's the base of the rod that you built for you in 123?
In 120.
Oh, is that what exhibit do you have in front of you, David?
123. It's painted Dave and Dad on it, and also I was very adamant. 6-year-old David was very adamant about including Power Ranger stickers, which I can also see in the picture.
And is there a picture of the handle of that fishing rod?
Just of the base of the rod.
And then, did you and your dad make anyone else a fishing pole?
Yes, we also made one for my mom.
Before I go to the one that you made for your mom, I want to just ask you a couple of questions, but I need to see the pictures. On exhibit 125, can you tell the date that you made the fishing pole?
It's marked May of 1996.
And is that when you remember making the fishing pole? I think you said 6-year-old David wanted Power Rangers?
Yeah, I was quite young at the time, but I remember picking out the stickers and trying to figure out which ones would actually fit on the rod and doing that out in the garage.
And exhibit 123 and 124 are just of the base of the fishing pole with the Power Ranger stickers?
Yes, correct. Yeah, it's marked Dave and Dad as well.
Now, I was just asking you if you had made a fishing pole for anyone else, and what was your answer?
We also made one specifically for my mom.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibit 128 and ask you if you know what that is a picture of.
This looks like one of the rods that we built. Most of them had the cork handle.
Did yours have a cork handle?
No, mine had a metal and foam handle.
And what was so special about that handle to you, the metal and foam handle?
I picked it because it looked like a lightsaber.
Which would be consistent with 6-year-old David.
Yes.
And so exhibit 128, you recognize that as a fishing pole consistent with what you had made in the past with your dad?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibit 126. Are you able to tell from exhibit 126 on who that fishing pole was made for? Or is that just another picture of the pole?
No, this one is marked my 3Ds, which is what my mom called us collectively, Dad, David, and Douglas.
Okay, I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibit 127. Is this a close-up of the kind of the base of the pole?
Yes.
And what does it say on there?
It's the my 3Ds and then Christmas 98.
And I'm going to show you exhibit 129, which I think is a clearer picture.
Yes, the same pole, just a little more in focus. But yeah, yes, my 3Ds and then Christmas 98.
Can you turn mine? Consistent with the picture 128 that I showed you?
Yes.
And this was consistent with one of the pictures I showed you, exhibit 127?
Yes.
And on this picture, you can see the My 3Ds at the top,
Yes.
and then it says Christmas 98.
Yes.
And that's consistent with exhibit 129 that I showed you?
Yes.
David, why does it say Christmas 98, if you remember?
We were making it as a Christmas gift.
And how do you remember when you made this fishing pole?
Not exactly. It would have been sometime in the winter months. The garage was heated, but it still was, chilly enough to need a jacket.
And do you remember it being chilly enough that you needed a jacket?
Yes.
And who did you make this fishing pole with for Christmas?
My dad and I.
Did Douglas help?
I don't recall him helping. He was very young at the time.
And did you help with any part of making this fishing pole?
As much as I could. As a kid, I think I was there more just to provide excitement.
Did your family have a home computer?
Yes, we had one in the den.
And do you remember when you got that home computer? I'm not asking the specific date or time, just like generally, do you remember getting it?
Yes, when we got it, we also bought a table to be the desk for it, which I took upon myself to try to assemble, and like my parents unpacked the box and I came and found me like doing the bolts in. I liked putting things together, so just thought it was a big Lego set, essentially.
And did you ever use that computer?
Yes, there was a painting program that I was particularly fond of, that I remember playing with it on.
Do you remember anyone else using the home computer?
Intermittently in the evening, we'd occasionally hang out in the den. My parents taught me to play chess in there, and I'd occasionally see my dad and my mom using it on occasion, but nothing in particular stands out about it.
Do you specifically remember seeing your dad on the computer?
Yes.
And do you specifically remember seeing your mom on the computer?
And yes.
And you said, when was that you would typically see them?
In the evenings is when I remember seeing them on it.
Can you tell us what they were doing on the computer?
I couldn't tell you specifics.
At the time, at any time did your childhood, do you remember your mom being upset or exhibiting any unusual behavior?
I mean, upset a few times, but I mean, once I went to the neighbor, asked to go out and play, and went to the neighbors across the street, and this neighbors next door, and parents couldn't find me, so they were understandably upset.
Absolutely.
But there was one instance where she did get upset that I didn't. It stuck with me because I didn't understand why she was upset or what we'd done wrong.
What was that?
One summer, we were watching my cousin Drake during the day that summer, and I don't recall how we exactly got onto this, but we were playing with Hot Wheels tracks and taking them apart and sticking them in the waistbands of our pants, and I remember her just screaming at us in the bathroom and washing our mouth out with soap and putting us in a timeout. I didn't understand why what we'd done wrong to warrant that reaction.
It'd be fair though, that wasn't like a typical memory of yours that you were always getting yelled at or grounded.
Oh, no.
This is just one instance that you remember.
Yes.
And I think you said you remembered it because it just kind of stands out at you because you didn't understand why you got in trouble.
Yeah, yes.
Is there any other time that you remember your mom being upset and maybe you didn't understand why? That was the big one that stood out to me. That you remember?
Yeah.
Do you ever remember a time where Drake would have like rubbed feces on the wall?
I'm objecting to leading.
Sustained.
Do
It's
you
a pretty leading question.
Do you have any memory of you and Drake spreading anything on the wall?
I'm objecting again. This is still leading.
We'll allow that one.
No, I don't remember ever spreading things on the wall.
I want to talk to you a little bit about just like day-to-day things in your household. Who did the cooking?
My mom did most of the cooking.
And how do you remember that?
I just occasionally vague memories of her cooking. I remember my dad would grill. I'd help him with that sometimes. But yeah, my mom did most of the cooking, and in one instance when she cut herself with a kitchen knife, just stood out to me. So, but yeah, she was the primary cook, I think.
You had an uncle who lived not too far away, I think Paul Griffin.
Yes. He was also in Kenosha, so not too far away.
Do you remember spending time with him?
Not very often. I remember we would there was one birthday party that we went to during the summer months over there, but we would they had they had two adopted kids, and my cousin Kim was close in age enough to me that just wanted to get together and play with her more, but didn't really get the opportunity. We tried to see them at Christmas, but we didn't actually get together all that often.
What was it specifically about Christmas that you remember?
Well, we would call them drive-by Christmases, because we would try to get together and nothing would materialize, and eventually we just drive by their house and leave their presents on the front porch.
David, I want to take you back to December of 1998. And I want to specifically talk to you about December 2nd, which would have been the Wednesday before your mom passed away, okay? Do you remember how your mom was feeling that day?
She wasn't feeling well. She was in bed. So. Yeah.
And do you remember, you say she's not feeling well. Why did you think she wasn't feeling well?
I don't remember any specific symptoms on that day or anything. It was just she was in bed, which was unusual, and mom and dad told us she was sick. So.
Do you remember if your mom gave you a note to give to Therese DeFazio?
No, I don't remember if she gave me a note.
Do you remember if you called Eric Shore that day to ask to go to his house?
No, I don't remember that.
Do you remember talking or going to his house after school?
Not on that, not any specific date, but I do remember hanging out with him. We'd play The Sims and poke around on the piano. Yeah, he was like my best friend growing up, so I was we hung out frequently.
You hung out frequently, but what you're saying is you don't specifically remember that day.
Yes, I don't remember any. Those are just collective memories with him. I don't remember that specific day.
When you got home on that specific day, do you remember seeing your mom?
Yes, she was in bed, and I wanted to make her mac and cheese, since that's what I got when I wasn't feeling well. So I remember bringing her that and some water. But
you said you wanted to make her mac and cheese. Do you remember helping make the mac and cheese?
Not specifically making it. I remember that I had to be the one to proudly carry the bowl into the bedroom, but and not specifically making it.
And I think you said that you also took her some water.
Oh, yes.
When you were in the bedroom, or when you took this into the bedroom with your mom, do you remember talking to her? No particular conversation, but she was up and interacting with us, and So you remember talking, but not specifically what was said.
I couldn't quote, but just generally oh, thank you for the food, and telling her we loved her, and her, responding to that.
Do you remember your mom volunteering in the classroom on Wednesdays with Miss DeFazio?
Yes, I remember. I remember seeing her in the classroom, but most of my specific memories are whenever there'd be a field trip. Those stand out a little bit more.
You remember your mom coming on field trips?
Yeah.
Yes. Do you remember any conversation with Miss DeFazio about your mom on December 2nd?
No, I don't remember talking to her about my mom.
I want to go back then to that, or go forward a day to that December 3rd day, the day your mom passed away. Did you see your mom that morning?
Yes, we went to go say goodbye to her before we left for school.
And where was she?
She was in bed.
And was she still sick?
Yes, her breathing was raspy that morning, but she still, gave us a hug, told us she loved us, and before we left.
You just said that her breathing was raspy. Was that different than what you had seen or heard on the night before December 2nd?
Yes, I don't remember her having the same breathing on the day prior.
So on December 3rd, you talked to your mom?
Yes, before we left for school. The only specific exchange that I remember in detail is just I love you, and then her responding I love you too.
Was she moving?
She didn't get out of bed, but she was. She turned to look at us. She gave us a hug. So she was moving around at least that much.
That morning, did you catch the school bus?
I usually took the bus. I don't recall that. I don't remember specifically that morning. It was just kind of part of my routine, so it doesn't really stand out.
Prior to leaving the house, did you have any conversation with your dad about how your mom was doing?
Yes, we talked about how we were going to come straight home after school. He was going to pick me up, we'll pick both of us up, and if she wasn't feeling better, we were going to take her straight to the doctor.
And that was prior to leaving for school?
Yes.
That day when in school, do you remember having any specific conversation with Eric Shore about your mom?
I don't remember. I'm sure I would have spoken to him, but I don't remember any specific conversation.
Do you remember specifically what you said to him about the conversation you had with your dad?
I don't remember exactly what I would have said to him.
At some point, you did come home from school. I think you testified to earlier.
Yes.
And what you just said was that your dad said that he was going to pick you and your brother up and then go home.
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
Yes, we got home, and we wanted to go see her, obviously, but we told us to wait in the living room so he could go check if she was asleep, or didn't want two kids just jumping on her.
And did you stay in the living room then?
Yes, we did.
And I think you
Douglas and I did.
And at some point, your dad came back out of the bedroom.
Yes.
And it was at that point that you saw him crying?
Yes.
After your dad came down the hallway, what did he say to you?
He told us to stay on the couch and asked me to put on a movie for Doug.
And did you do that?
Yes.
Where did your dad go?
He went towards the kitchen, where I heard him talking on the telephone.
After your dad was finished on the talking on the telephone, where did he go then?
He went back to the bedroom.
At some point, did police officers show up at your house?
Yes. Police officers. There's an ambulance outside too. There was one officer in particular that kind of hung out with Doug and I and showed us her baton and just kind of keeping us entertained and distracted.
When you were in with the officer who kept you distracted, do you know where your dad was?
We were in the living room and the foyer, but I don't remember him. I don't remember him being there with us. I think he was still down in the bedroom. But we never went down to the bedroom. So
At some point, did you leave your home?
Yes, we went and spent the night at my Aunt Laura's house.
Did you see your dad the next day?
Yeah. Yes, he came and saw us the next morning.
And what did he tell you at that point? Or whatever you remember from that point.
Yeah. He sat us down on his lap and told us she passed. I'd kind of already knew at that point, and I don't remember what specifically he said to me. I was kind of just numb, and he may as well have been talking to the wall. I was kind of just in a daze.
Did anyone else talk to you that day?
Yeah, yes, I remember my aunt and my grandparents both sitting down with us individually too, but it was kind of the same reaction. I was kind of just numb. I spent the entire time feeling guilty that I wasn't crying. But
Did you go to your mom's visitation?
yes, my dad, Doug, and I had, we arrived first at the funeral home before anybody else was there, and we had a private time with her.
So you and your dad and Doug spent time alone with your mom without anyone else?
Yes.
David, when you saw your dad coming down that hallway sobbing or crying, had you ever seen him that way before?
That was the first time I'd seen him cry.
I have no other questions. Thank you.
Who's doing the cross? Go ahead, Ms. McNeil.
So David, I'm going to show you, Madam Clerk, what number are we on for exhibits? What's the next number? Yeah, so what would that number be? So these will be on State's Exhibit 130. And if we could just have the computer switched over to this one. So David, do you recognize who's in that picture?
Yes, that's myself, my mom, and
Little
Douglas.
And then in this picture, do you recognize who's in it?
Yes, that's also my mom with me, and then Doug in the back seat.
And then the third one, do you recognize what this is?
Yeah, my 3Ds, Dad, David, and Doug, our custom license plate.
So you knew that was your mom's license plate?
Yeah, and I can remember that red car that it was attached to as well.
Now, do you have pictures of you and your mother?
I do, yes.
And did she often take pictures with you and Douglas?
Yeah, we took pictures frequently.
And you know, not just from the license plate, but you know that you and Douglas, you were everything to your mother, right?
Yes.
Now, after your mom's death, you grew up with your dad, right?
Yes.
And you lived with him in the same household until you were about 17, right?
In the same household. So we moved a few times.
So, I mean, but when you grew up, you were in a home with your dad
Yes.
until you were at least 17.
Yes.
And during that time, after your mom's death, your dad started dating Kelly Labonte?
At some point, I don't remember exactly when.
And you don't know when he actually started dating her, right?
No.
But you know that Kelly Labonte started coming to your house, right?
The only time I specifically remember her in, yeah, there's only one time I specifically remember her at the house on Lakeshore Drive.
The Pleasant Prairie house.
Yes.
And do you remember her being at your birthday party that January 1999?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember much about that party.
And then the months after, you don't remember much about Kelly Labonte being at your house?
No, I don't.
But then you moved to a house in Kenosha.
Yes, on the north side. I remember her being there.
Okay, and that's where Kelly Labonte moved into the home.
Yes.
And I've been calling her Kelly Labonte, but she was Kelly Jensen to you, right?
Yes, and yes. Eventually started, calling her mom.
She married your father, correct?
Correct. Yes. Sorry.
And so she changes her last name, so she's Kelly Jensen.
Yes.
And so basically, as soon as you moved into that house in Kenosha, until the time you were at least 17, you were living with your dad and with Kelly Jensen.
Yes.
And Douglas, of course, too.
Yes.
Now, Douglas, he's 5 years younger than you?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so you were born in January of 1990?
And he was born in March of 95.
Okay. Now, after your mother died, were you able to talk about her with people in your family?
Yes, remember talking with my grandparents about her, reminiscing, but
And you've talked about some memories. Can you tell us what is your best memory with your mother?
best memory. Eagle Tower up in Door County. We went up, we had family, extended family in Door County and Sister Bay, so we would vacation up there pretty frequently to go cross country skiing in the winter or biking in the fall. And at Peninsula State Park, there's an old fire watch tower, and just climbing that with her and looking out over the bay. I loved it up there with her.
And so your mom was really active?
Yes.
And you saw the picture with the bike, she would bike with you?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to ask you some questions about this very difficult time period when your mom passed away. But before we get to that, I want to ask you about the computer. Do you remember like the time of year when you got that computer that ended up in the den of your house?
I don't remember exactly when.
And you said you saw your mom on the computer?
Yes.
And do you have any idea what she was doing on the computer?
I don't.
So your mom actually wasn't very good with computers at all, right?
I couldn't say one way or the other.
So do you remember joking with your teacher, Ms. DeFazio, about how your mom really didn't know anything about computers?
I don't remember that.
And you had some interest in computers, right?
Yes, I liked playing on it.
So it was something that you would play on?
Yes.
And so did you joke with Ms. DeFazio that you had to show your mom what to do on the computer because you actually knew more than her?
No, I don't remember that.
And did you say anything to Ms. DeFazio about trying to teach your mom how to do things on the computer? No, I don't remember that. Okay, and so, for a lot of these questions, you might not remember, and then for some questions you might not know. So if you don't remember, just say I don't remember, and then if you don't know, say I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm just saying you that so I don't have to ask it after every single one.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't have to say, well, do you not remember or you don't know?
Okay.
Okay. All right, so I want to talk to you about the morning of December 2nd. So that would have been the day before your mother died. So that morning, your mom was supposed to go to Ms. DeFazio's class, right?
I guess if it was a Wednesday, then yes.
Now, you say you don't remember giving Ms. DeFazio a note.
I don't.
But your mom was sick that morning, right?
Yes.
And Ms. DeFazio asked you about your mom being sick, right?
I don't know. I don't remember.
And you told Ms. DeFazio that your mom was coughing really bad, right?
Well, I don't remember her coughing until the next day, but I don't remember or don't know about that conversation with Ms. DeFazio.
Okay, so you're not saying it didn't happen, you're saying you don't remember.
Correct. I have no recollection of it.
Now, that day, also, you ended up going to your friend Eric Shore's house after school?
On that Wednesday. I don't remember specifically on that day.
Okay, so again, it's not it didn't happen, it's I don't remember.
Correct.
And so if Ms. DeFazio says she got a note, and in that note it also said you were going to Eric's house after school, you just don't remember that?
Yeah, I correct. I have no recollection of it.
Now, you told your friend Eric Shore that your mom is really sick too, right?
I don't remember the specific conversation with him, but I'm sure I would have talked to him about it.
And in fact, when you told your friend this, you demonstrated to him how your mom was breathing. Do you remember doing that?
I don't remember doing that.
That is like deep and raspy breaths. Do you remember demonstrating that for your friend Eric Shore?
I remember witnessing the breathing on her, but I don't remember demonstrating it.
Now, again, a lot of these questions you're not going to remember. And actually, you've never testified before in this case at all?
No, this is my first time.
Okay, so you might have heard a lot of other people testified around 2008, but you didn't.
I did not know.
And you know your friend Eric Shore, he's actually testified now 3 times in connection with this case,
Okay. I knew he had testified. I didn't know how many times.
including years ago when these events would have been closer in time.
I was aware he testified during the original.
So like in 2007 and then 2008, is
Yeah.
that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was aware that he testified then.
So for you, it's tougher because you didn't testify in those times.
No, it's asked. I don't have any written record or anything of it.
Now, in terms of that day, December 2nd, again, you don't remember this, but you had that note to go to Eric Shore's house. And then after that, that was a Wednesday. Do you remember having karate on Wednesdays?
Yes, I remember having the karate class.
Now, do you actually have any memory of going to karate the day before your mom died?
Not of that week, no.
Okay. So if it was according to your normal schedule, you would have had that, but you just don't know if you went or not.
I don't remember, no.
But you do remember coming home and trying to help your mom by giving her mac and cheese?
Yes.
And your mom was in bed in the morning, right? That morning of December 2nd?
Yes.
And that wasn't usual for your mom, right?
Yeah, yes, usually she'd be up and helping us get ready for school.
Right.
So her still being in bed was unusual.
And then when you came home that night, your mom was still in bed, right?
Yes.
And do you remember trying to be extra quiet that night so your mom could rest?
I don't remember that specifically, but it would make sense.
And so I think you told us that what you remember about that night is just kind of hanging out with her in the bedroom.
I remember bringing the food to her. I don't remember if we spent an extended period of time, like watching TV or something in there. I don't remember that.
Do you have any idea during this time period what your bedtime was?
Oh, I remember it being 8:30 at one point because I would get upset during the summer because it would still be light outside. And I didn't want to go to bed when there was sunlight so I could play. I don't remember what it specifically was like during the school year for this particular time frame.
So do you think you would have been asleep on a school night around 9:30, 10?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable, but I can't remember specifically.
Okay. But fair to say, whenever you went to sleep, you certainly wouldn't know what was happening after that in your house.
No.
So now I want to take you to the morning of December 3rd. That morning, when you woke up that morning and you saw your mom, she was still in bed, right?
Yes.
And that morning when she was in bed, she was breathing really badly.
Yes, it was labored and raspy.
And in fact, that morning you were really worried about your mom, weren't you?
Yes, it was clear that she wasn't getting better.
You didn't want to go to school?
Didn't want to go to school. I don't remember if I specifically didn't want to go to school. I just remember being worried about her.
And you wanted your dad to take your mom to the hospital, right?
Yes. So we talked about how it's just when you're sick you rest, and if you're not getting better then we go see the doctor. So the discussion was that if she wasn't feeling better when we got home, we'd take her to the hospital.
Okay, so in the months after your mom died, a detective ended up talking to you at the police station. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And when you talked to the detective about it, you told the detective that you asked your dad that morning if your mom needed to go to the hospital?
I don't remember any of the specific questions. I remember getting picked up from school and going to the police station and the interrogation room, which was full of Burger King bags. But I don't remember any of the specific discussions while I was there. So I couldn't say.
Okay. So again, you're not saying you didn't say this, you're just saying you don't remember. Right?
Correct. Yeah, I don't remember any specific discussion or questions during when I was there.
Okay. So you don't remember asking your dad if your mother needed to go to the hospital?
I don't.
And you don't remember your dad saying no?
I don't.
And you do remember, though, that your dad promised you that when you got home on the 3rd, if your mom wasn't better, that you would take her to the hospital, or he would.
Yes, we were going to come straight home from school and check on her.
Now, the morning of December 3rd, you never saw your mother get out of bed, right?
No, I didn't.
And in fact, that morning, your mom couldn't even speak, right?
No, I remember telling her I remember her telling us she loved us. So I think she was able to speak.
Didn't you tell your father or remind your father in April of 1999 that your mom couldn't talk that morning?
I don't remember that.
I mean, you were so worried about her, you wanted her to go to the doctor, right?
Yes.
And your dad said no.
I don't remember that. I don't remember a specific no. It was just we were going to take her home or take her after school if she wasn't feeling better.
Now, did you tell your friend Eric Shore that you wanted your mom to go to the hospital?
I don't remember the specific conversation with him that day. So I don't remember.
Did you tell Eric Shore that even though you wanted your mom to go to the hospital, your dad said no?
I don't remember.
Now, the afternoon of December 3rd, do you remember on Thursdays in that school year that you had a French club?
Oh. Yes, I do. I haven't thought about that in a very long time. Yes, I do remember. Yes, I remember I was part of that.
And you would agree you weren't at home for an hour or anything like that before the police and the ambulance got there, right?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
So when you got home on December 3rd, it was pretty quick that the police and the ambulance got there, right?
Yeah, I couldn't give you an exact time, but yes, I don't remember. I think it wasn't that long. It was pretty shortly after we got home.
So if we know that the police and the ambulance got there around 4:30 that afternoon, then you wouldn't have been home since like 3:30 or anything like that, right?
No, I don't think so.
Because actually, when you got home that day, you wanted to run to your mom, right?
Yes, I
And
wanted
you
to go
went-
check on her.
Because if she wasn't better, she was going to go to the hospital.
Yes.
But your dad wouldn't let you run to your mom, right?
No, he told us to wait in the living room so he could check on her.
And did he actually tell you to take Douglas and take the dog out for a walk?
I don't remember that.
Okay. Do you remember ever saying that to your teacher, Ms. DeFazio, once you got back to school?
I don't.
So when you left for school on December 3rd that morning, you were afraid for your mom, right?
I was worried about her.
And you thought she should go to the hospital.
Yes, just that was kind of my young David's frame understanding of it was, when you're sick, you rest until you get better. If you don't get better, you go to the doctor.
Now, I have a few other questions about afterwards and then growing up in your dad's household. Your dad was pretty good with computers, right?
I'd say so. I mean, yes, he was proficient with them.
And would he tend to be more of a night owl on the computer?
Yeah, yes. I got that from him too. Bit of a night owl.
And your dad actually built a computer, right?
Oh, I don't remember that.
You don't recall that?
I don't know.
But you recall him being very good with computers?
I remember him using them frequently. When he started his construction business, he designed his own logo and did all that by himself on the computer. So, yeah.
Now, do you remember a time period after your mom's death when you no longer saw her side of the family?
I mean, we didn't see them frequently beforehand, but it really fell off after she passed. We tried for a few Christmases after to try to get together with them, but I didn't see them very often.
And before that, you'd see him for birthday parties.
The one birthday party I remember kind of stands out because it was an outlier. I don't remember seeing them very often.
You remember your cousin Kim,
Yes,
and she was around your age?
a little bit younger.
Do you have like any keepsakes from your mom?
I have a lot of the photographs. Those are the main thing that I'll go through occasionally.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
All right, are we going to have any redirect?
Not from us. Thank you, Mr. Jensen.
Thank you. You're excused. Thank you.